What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, hitting you guys with a live stream today. Going to recap free agency for the Giants, talk about the signings that they made, the signings that they didn't make, and any signings that they might make going forward, and all the draft speculation, everything just involved with free agency and this offseason. We're excited to dive into this with you guys, but before we do so, make sure you like if you enjoy, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, comment your thoughts down below, go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And how are you feeling about how the Giants kind of attacked this free agency period?
I'm doing pretty good, and that countdown was stupendously dramatic. That was ridiculous. We'll have to get a better countdown for you guys, but doing well. I know a lot of people in the chat. We're going to try and kind of balance this as like a regular podcast episode, but also inject your thoughts and opinions and ideas and questions into the mix here. I'm sure we're all in the same boat in the sense that we just had a couple of big acquisitions. You guys know, if you follow me on social media, I'm a huge fan of Jermaine Illuminor. And if you guys want a little bit of tea, Jermaine's coming on the podcast before OTAs. I've been talking to him for the past 24 hours. Super great guy. Big fan of his. And if you're a fan of Fireside Giants, you know for a fact we have been calling this signing for the better part of like 2 months. I kind of do think that this is a Giants team that has made some moves. I'm not going to fall into the same trap that we did in the past where we were really optimistic, think this team is going to be good, and then we stink. So I'm going to say this. I think we added a couple really good pieces. I'm going to describe why. I know a lot of people are wondering kind of the detailed breakdowns of where these guys will play, the maximized kind of value of some of these offensive linemen we got in Runyon and obviously Jermaine Illuminor. So we'll break that down and a lot more from you guys in the comment section. As always, a couple shout outs, Young Joker, how we doing today? Ron Juan and all these guys, Janelle Garcia and Jason. What's up? How we doing? But Anthony, I'll let you kick it off and let's talk about the offensive line, because I think we'll save Brian Burns for the second topic. Let's talk about running. Let's talk about Illuminor. And guys, while we're talking about this, feel free to drop your thoughts in the comment section. We can use them. We can ask each other the same questions. We'll answer your questions on this topic, kind of a flowing run with episode. So I think we're going to try and be a little bit more balanced in that regard and include you guys in this entire concept that we're trying to put together. So Anthony, I'll let you take it away on that front.
Yeah, on the offensive line, listen, bottom line, the Giants got better on the offensive line. You know, there's no other way that you can put it. We love Jermaine Illuminor. We're really happy that he was brought over here. Of course, you mentioned it. We're excited. We're going to be interviewing him soon. We're excited because we've been talking about him for months, ever since the Giants hired Carmen Bristolo. First thing we said was, watch Jermaine Illuminor. That's a New York Giant right there. And we were right, and it just makes too much sense. The Giants needed to bring in a veteran who can compete with Evan Neal. They needed to bring in somebody who could play at an average to above level at the right tackle spot in case Evan Neal doesn't figure it out. And I know many fans feel like Evan Neal will never figure it out, but maybe he'll figure it out at guard, and now he'll probably have that opportunity to test out guard and see if that is a better suiting for him at the NFL level. I like John Runyon. I don't love John Runyon. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that this is the end-all, be-all, the number one player that fixes our offensive line, but he makes us better. If you're comparing John Runyon to guys like Ben Bredesen, Justin Pugh, you go with John Runyon. That's a better player right there. So it is an upgrade. Is it the big splash that we expected the Giants to make? No. I did have a bold prediction. I put it on Twitter going into free agency. I said the Giants are going to make a splash in free agency in the trenches, maybe offensive line, maybe defensive line, one of the two. It ended up being on the defensive line where the Giants made that splash, so I was halfway right. So on the offensive line, though, it's not that they made any big splashes, but they made some really well-calculated moves. And I have to say, I think that this offensive line is upgraded at 3 different positions because of those 2 moves that they made. Illuminor at right tackle. I think when you move Neal in guard, you get a better guard than what you had last year. And John Runyon is better than any guard that they had at any point last season. So hopefully you have 3 upgrades on the offensive line there. It really is still just a question mark of whether or not Evan Neal takes that step forward.
Absolutely. So, I'm looking at one comment right now, and this is Miguel Cintron, 20 quarterback pressures in 17 games and 30 solo tackles worth $30 million. Come on. I'm not sure. I don't think he's talking about Runyon here, but, I'll talk about Runyon for a second in terms of where I think his value is. And I mean, if you saw me on social media when we signed him, Anthony, you know for a fact I was talking about how he is better at left guard, and people were looking at his stats. And look, I'll break it down for you guys right now why Runyon is going to be a solid player for the Giants at a 3-year, $30 million deal. Yes, it's a little bit expensive for a player that you look at the stats and say, does it make much sense why they gave him so much money? But he wasn't that bad last year. Last year he played 1,009 snaps. And you know what the most important thing for us health and actually staying healthy and maintaining that. The best ability is availability sometimes. And Jon Runyan has played 3 consecutive years with over 1,000 snaps. That type of availability and durability is something that we have desperately missed from our interior guards in the last couple of years. Last year, he played 1,006 snaps at right guard, gave up 22 pressures and 2 sacks and 6 penalties, the most in his career. Obviously, some people will look at that and say, well, we didn't grade very well, gave up some pressures, wasn't altogether that consistent, but he was playing out of position. Basically, what happened in 2021 was he played left guard, 1,100 snaps, and he had a good pass blocking grade. He's never been like a crazy good run blocker, but I think Carmen Brasilla will help in that regard. He's only 26 years old, so keep in mind he's a young guy with a lot of room to develop still. But he's a good left guard as a second-year player. And then his third year comes around, and the Packers say to themselves, well, we think he is our starting left guard. We're moving Elton Jenkins over to left tackle to see what he can do. And guys, in the first 5 weeks of the 2022 season, Jon Runyan did not give up a single pressure. He had some of the best, if not the best, pass blocking interior guard grades of anybody in the NFL. So if you're looking at the Giants in terms of value, they got substantial value from a pass protection standpoint because he's not playing right guard. He's not playing the position that he actually struggled with a little bit last year. He's playing the position he was elite at over the sample size we saw in 2022 and was good at in 2021. And then today during his press conference, Jon Runyan comes out and says, hey, guess what? I actually prefer to play left guard. So I think that's actually a really positive thing for Jon Runyan and the actual value the Giants are getting from this contract. Now, Jermaine Illuminor, we've been talking about Jermaine Illuminor for a very long time. I actually think that he's going to win this right tackle job without much of a competition. Anthony, I probably think you're on the same boat as I am. I'll let you get your take on that. But Evan Neal, unless he takes substantial steps forward, monumental leaps in his growth and development, there's no shot I'm giving him that right guard freebie, as a freebie. Like, there's no way I'm not giving him competition in his third season, coming off 2 ankle injuries. It is the evidence is there. They need to offer competition for Evan Neal, and Jermaine Illuminor is a 2-year starter in Carmen Brasilo's system. And, Illuminor also understands how that system operates. If you look at what the Raiders had on their offensive line last year, it was a bunch of journeymen. Really, it was really just a bunch of journeyman guys. They had the 13th ranked pass blocking unit in football. And the year before that, they had the best ranked rushing attack in the game, with Josh Jacobs leading the league in yards. So you see that right now, the Giants brought in the guy who, really helped build a Raiders offensive line that was awful in 2021, comes in, turns it into a really good run blocking unit, and then actually gets them to well above average in the pass protection category in 2023. So I think Illuminor is a really good signing. He's going to start at right tackle, or he can compete at right guard. He even said himself he's very versatile. I do like this a lot from the Giants in terms of finding value. 2 years, $14 million. And you want to know what? Jermaine Illuminor has been an exemplary guy ever since signing this contract 2 days ago. He's joining podcasts. He's showing love to the fans. He's saying how much he wants to play for the Giants. And, he asked O.C. Manor if he could have that number 72, and he told O.C., I'm only taking that number if I'm going to play at an extremely high level. And you love to hear that. Like, he's committed to being the best possible player he can be. And already he's seeming like a leader on this offensive line. I really feel like we have lacked that leadership in the trenches. And now we finally have it. And appreciate the donation, Coupland. Really appreciate it. Talk to me, Fireside. What about a trade back, recoup a second or third, then take best available? There may be a quarterback that's, but it's a deep wide receiver and offensive line draft. Maybe plus we still need a cornerback. Talk to me, boys. Anthony, I'll let you take this one away. What do you think about trading back and getting a couple more extra picks? Do you think that's an opportunity if there's no quarterback there that we necessarily like at number 6?
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you for the donation. Trading back, recouping a second and third round pick, it's an option. However, we kind of talked about this a while ago. I think that for the New York Giants, if you're holding that number 6 overall pick and you're trying to get a quarterback, say there's no quarterback on the board that you like, I think you have to take whichever blue chip prospect is still available. Back in 2021, the Giants traded down with a blue chip prospect available for them. It was Micah Parsons. They ended up with young Joka, Kadarius Toney, and eventually Evan Neal. Look at how that panned out. We really liked the deal at the time, but honestly, I think a lesson learned, when you have a blue chip prospect on the board, you take the guy who might be able to transform your franchise, and that's where I stand for the New York Giants. It's definitely a possibility. I'm not discounting the opportunity for them to trade down. It could bring them a whole lot of value. So maybe they do it. They do need to fill quite a few more holes. I think, kind of to your point, Alex, talking about Evan Neal getting the right guard job, there should be some sort of competition. Trading down, they could get a few more picks, and maybe they could get some more competition in the guard room that way. But I do think that if you have a blue chip prospect, or you feel, if you're Joe Schoen, you feel like there's a blue chip guy on the board, you're going to end up taking the blue chip guy. And that's if they don't go ahead and trade up into the top 3, which is something that I saw a few people commenting about. So Jonathan, you mentioned it. It's somebody else up here also mentioned that they hope the Giants move up, and hoping that the trade for Brian Burns doesn't affect right here. Ron Juan hoping that the trade doesn't affect the Giants' ability to move up and get a quarterback. So I think that the more likely option between the two is that the Giants trade up, not down. I think when you're looking at this roster, they really need to get stability at that quarterback spot, because it sounds like they don't believe in Daniel Jones. Sounds like they're too concerned by the injuries. I think they're probably looking to trade up and get a quarterback rather than trade down. But again, it takes 2 to tango. If they can't find a trade up partner, maybe they find a trade down partner. Totally reasonable.
I mean, I guess it's possible. Look, I think passing on a blue chip prospect right now would be a huge mistake. This draft class is at the top 10 players are truly exciting, right? I mean, you guys know I love Jaden Daniels. People have their differing opinions, and some people like Drake May, some people like JJ. I think a lot of people on the fence that about JJ being the 6th overall pick in terms of it being a reach, a lot of people would call it. However, let's look at the Brian Burns question. You know, someone just asked a second ago. I don't think Burns being acquired impacts the Giants taking a quarterback at all, or even moving up, right? The truth is the Giants can use their future first-round picks. Acquiring, you already have several linchpin pieces. If you think about it this way, you already have your linchpin left tackle. That's the most important part of the offensive line, that linchpin left tackle. You have your stud, one of the best defenders in the game, in Dexter Lawrence. You just added another one of the best defenders in the game in Brian Burns. And by the way, most of these guys are entering the first years of their contracts or second years. Like, we're talking 4 or 5 year contracts. I think some of these guys are under contract until like 2029. We have these guys for a long time, and they're young, 24, 25 years old, which is best case. We have our young core pieces locked up in there throughout their entire primes. So if you think about that, as the cap is increasing, Dexter Lawrence's deal already looks like a steal. If you look at Andrew Thomas's deal, already looks like a value grab. Brian Burns, that contract is excessive in terms of what it looks like right now, but wait until Micah Parsons gets paid $35-40+ million in free agency, or rather, instead of getting that 5th-year option, they'll get the 5th-year option, and then they'll have the extension already in place. It's going to make the Brian Burns deal look like, pennies on the dollar long-term as the cap continues to rise and we bounce back from the whole COVID thing. So I think right now we're in a really good spot. We have really good young talent locked up long-term. And I saw a comment before saying this offense is going to look a lot different than number 26. And guys, I wrote an article this morning about Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary had a higher elusiveness rate than Saquon Barkley did last year, had more yards per carry in less carries. So it had more yards and less carries, and he had almost the equivalent amount of receiving yards. Devin Singletary is not a pushover running back. Look, he's not Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is a different type of animal. He's a different type of luxury item. But I think a lot of people are underrating the fact that Devin Singletary is not a bad player. He's a pretty solid player. And if you pair him with an A.J. Dillon, a lot of people are saying, I want A.J. Dillon. I really want this like big complimentary back. If the Giants can get him at a cheap cost, or even spend a mid-round pick on like a Jalen Wright or a Trey Benson or an Audric Estime, why not? You know what I mean? Pair Devin Singletary with a guy like that. You can get the same production that Saquon produced alone, and you can quell those fear of injury. How many times did Saquon go down, Anthony? And you guys, how many times did Saquon go down and our season went down with it? We're like, yeah, like we don't have an offense anymore without Saquon. And David, I'll address this right now. Houston's offensive line can actually block. Albeit they were a little bit better than the Giants, they still ranked below average in run blocking. So I'll give you that little bit of information. They ranked 20th in run blocking, below average. So, you look at the actual statistics. It's not like Devin Singletary is coming from an elite offensive line that was great at run blocking. He came from a below average line. The Giants offensive line was just so bad, it's almost incomprehensible. So yes, I think Saquon Barkley is a better play than Devin Singletary, but is he $7.5 million worse? I don't know. If you double the value of Devin Singletary, is that equivalent to Saquon Barkley? I don't know. Obviously, it's, everyone has their opinion on that, but I don't think that we should be discounting the value that Devin Singletary has. I think we're going to be surprised at how good he actually is on this team, especially because we want to be passing the ball more anyway, Anthony. Tell me about that. receiver, offense. This offense has to be going in the direction of actually throwing the football and doing it well. We can't have a stalling offense anymore that we just can't operate in the red zone. We can't throw the ball downfield. We can't be accurate. That's why getting a quarterback, a lot of people will think, is imperative. But, what are your thoughts on that in terms of where the offense is probably going away from a run-heavy attack and more towards a pass-heavy attack?
It's hard to say which way they're going to go until they have their quarterback in place. I don't know what the Giants are going to be doing offensively because I don't know who's throwing the football for them. That's going to make a big difference. If they end up drafting a Jaden Daniels somehow, they're going to have a more run-heavy attack. If they end up drafting a Drake May somehow, they're going to have a more pass-heavy attack. So it really depends on who's playing quarterback. It doesn't sound like they want Daniel Jones playing quarterback, although he might be their best option. We'll see. I'm not exactly sure. So it's kind of tough to tell. I think that Devin Singletary is going to be a great back for them, but I don't think that they're going to have a 1,000-yard rusher on their roster this year. I think they're going to have 1,000 yards of rushing production through Singletary, plus 1 to 2 other backs, plus whichever quarterback is playing. Even if it's Daniel Jones, I mean, who knows how much he's going to be running coming off of the torn ACL, but you do know that rushing is a big part of his game, so you expect him to run at least to some extent. If it ends up being Jaden Daniels, which I don't think it will be, I think he's going number 2 to Washington. But if it ends up being him, it's going to be a big part of their game, the rushing quarterback. And even if it's Drake May, he's very mobile. And even J.J. McCarthy has the ability to move. So I think that they're going to have over 1,000 yards in rushing production, but not from one singular player. But talking about that quarterback position, I saw this question come up twice. Jason D'Elia, what are your thoughts on getting Fields from Chicago? And Kevin Davis asking, Justin Fields trade needs to involve the Giants, then use the 6th overall pick for a big-time weapon. So I do want to check in on that. Alex, how do you feel about the possibility of Justin Fields? I think Justin Fields is not getting traded. I actually think he's going to end up just backing up Caleb Williams. There's no market out there for him. I'm not sure that the Giants are going to be interested, but I could see why Giants fans would be interested in Justin Fields. He's athletic. He's got a strong arm. Brian Dable loved him back in the past. So Brian Dable has shown interest in him before. I don't think it happens. I don't think it's in the Giants' best interest because of his impending contract situation in the first place. But the Giants do need a quarterback, and he's an option out there. So, Alex, do you have any thoughts on the potential Justin Fields trade?
Well, Justin Fields. I just don't see how it makes sense, to be quite honest with you. Like, think about this, right? Daniel Jones, we just gave $40 million per season to. When we cut him next year, which is 99% going to happen, we saved about $20 million, just $22 million in dead cap. However, you can spread that dead cap over the course of over the 2 years left on his deal. So you can actually open up $30 million next offseason in available salary space. And go figure, it matches up exactly with Brian Burns' yearly salary, right? Yearly cap hit is about $30 million. So that $30 million the Giants saved from Daniel Jones maximum actually fits exactly what Brian Burns is getting year over year. So here's the thing, though. The Giants decided to extend Daniel Jones after a good season. They locked themselves into a big deal, and now they're paying the price because they can't really get out of it until next offseason. Justin Fields is like, it's too risky. And you look at the contract, right? He has a $6 million cap hit this year, and maybe the Bears would even take some of it just to get rid of him at this point and get some draft capital in return. And $6 million is nothing, but can the Giants win a lot of games? Can the Giants win a Super Bowl with Justin Fields right now? I think most people are going to say, hell no, no way, right? There's no shot the Giants are winning a Super Bowl with Justin Fields. But what if they make the playoffs with Justin Fields? And Justin Fields looks really good. And now the Giants have to pay Justin Fields, right? And Justin Fields is now the average contract. You look at Baker Mayfield, use that as an example, is getting $30 to $35 million per season. Are you willing to pay Justin Fields $30 to $35 million per season coming off a good year? Or you could franchise tag him, and which is still going to be what, $25 to $30 million for quarterbacks these days. So you're still paying him a crap ton of guaranteed money. I just don't see how it makes sense financially. You're much better off drafting a young quarterback. How much worse is a J.J. McCarthy or Drake May going to be than Justin Fields, right? I just don't know. I don't see the margin there. To me, isn't that big. I think that most of the production from Justin Fields comes from his legs, which makes him even more injury prone. And we don't know how good the offensive line is going to be. You could pick up the 5th-year option. I see some people saying, but the 5th-year option is $25.6 million. You want to give him $25.6 million? I don't know. To me, it's too risky financially. The Giants just don't have that cap space. You're gonna eat $22 million on Daniel Jones's money, and they're gonna pay $26 million to Justin Fields coming off a year where you're like, we just don't know what his future is. I'd rather reset the quarterback position in a really good draft class. That's my personal take. I just don't see why Justin Fields makes any sense for the Giants at this point in time.
Justin Fields would have made sense for the Giants if they did not draft Drew or sign Drew Lock, in my opinion. If they wanted to trade a late round pick, because let's face it, at this point, his value has bottomed out. It probably would have been a fifth or a sixth, gets the deal done to get Justin Fields in here as your backup. That I would have been cool with. But now that they have Drew Lock on the roster, it doesn't make sense to trade anything for Justin Fields. The upside just doesn't seem to be there. The NFL is not high on him. It's not worth trading for him. If you really like him, you probably wait a year or two until he hits the free agency market, and then you sign him as a backup. But that's about it. The Giants aren't going to be trading for Justin Fields. If they are, I mean, that would be wild. I really don't think that that's a possibility, though. I think that more likely than not, the Giants are just going to look to get a quarterback in the draft. But what if they don't get a quarterback in the draft? That's a big question. I'm not sure where the Giants go. Is Daniel Jones the starter? Is it more of a competition with him and Drew Lock? I've seen some people say it's definitely competition. I've seen others say it's definitely not a competition. I think that's an interesting storyline. What happens if the Giants don't land a quarterback at any point in the 2024 NFL draft? That's like scary. That's like you're going into uncharted territory with your quarterback coming off of a torn ACL, not being known whether or not he is your franchise starter. It's a pretty scary situation, Alex. Before I pull another question up from the chat, I do quickly want to hear kind of your thoughts on, well, what if the Giants don't land a quarterback at any point in this draft class? Is it a competition between him and Drew Lock, or is it Daniel Jones's job?
I don't even want to think about that, to be honest.
It's a scary thought.
Well, here's the thing, though. Daniel Jones is not going to be ready to play, right? He's going to miss the whole summer. I mean, didn't a recent report just come out that he's behind in his rehab, right?
No, so, I saw that
is that false?
He told one of the reporters, I think it was Jordan Randall, last time he spoke to them, or maybe it was Ryan Dunleavy, that he is expecting to be ready near the start of training camp. But that's him personally saying that. I don't know what there's any insider info on. I think he's going to be ready for week one. But yes, the point that I keep making is that even if he's ready for week one, OTAs are right around the corner. He's not ready for OTAs. You got to get somebody in there who can be installing the offense along with the rest of the team.
Yeah, no, for sure. And look, if we walk into the season with Drew Lock and Daniel Jones, we're basically like, that has to be a bridge, right? You know what I mean? Like that has to be a bridge concept. Drew Lock is not starting for the Giants long-term. If he does, we are in worse shape than we thought. Daniel Jones, at the very least, and look, a lot of people come up have the argument that if we draft Malik Neighbors and the first thing people say, who's throwing him the football, right? How is he going to actually operate in this offense? And I'm like, it's a damn good point, right? Like, who the hell is throwing Malik Neighbors the football? Rumo Dunze, who the hell is throwing him the football? Is it Daniel Jones or is it Drew Lock? Either way, I don't trust either of them. So the question here is, long-term, Malik Neighbors is going to be a rookie. Dunze is going to be a rookie. So like, you think about it in context with, it's not just the first year. Like it's the rest of their career or the rest of their rookie deal, 5 years with the Giants. Even if Daniel Jones and Drew Lock are the primary quarterbacks in 2024, that doesn't mean they will be in 2025. My bigger concern, Anthony, is the draft class next year is rather weak at quarterback. And the free agents, people don't let good free agent quarterbacks go. The only reason Kirk Cousins left is he tore his ACL, and it seems like the Vikings may be looking to restart. So, I just don't see how the Giants walk away from this draft class without a quarterback. I really don't. I don't know what the future holds. If we pass on this draft class, which is a really strong draft class for quarterbacks, I don't see how the future pans out where the Giants suddenly have a chance to win a championship and they have a cost-controlled situation. There's no Aaron Rodgers is on the market. I mean, what do you think?
I mean, I would argue that you mentioned this in a recent episode that we did where if they don't end up with a quarterback this offseason, maybe you just tank is not the right word, but maybe you just suck this year and then you trade for a quarterback next year. They're not going to tank. They're not going to purposely lose, but you hope to find somebody on the open market that you can trade for in the 2025 offseason. It's possible. And one thing that I'll say, if you're going to be looking at the 2025 draft class and saying, oh, it's not a favorable quarterback class, it's not a good quarterback class, we still don't know that. We do have a full year of football, college football to play. You don't know who ends up standing out. Going into that 2020, I think it was, draft class, Joe Burrow was a nobody, right, going into that season. By the time we got to draft season, he was the bona fide number one pick, and now he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. So I will say you can't really predict the future, but if you're the Giants, you could set yourselves up in a position where whatever happens in the future, you're ready for it. And in that, I'm saying Maybe their roster is not going to be ready this year. Maybe they just develop the young talent, develop Wandale, develop Singletary, who's still, growing into that prominent role, develop these guys on the defensive side of the ball, of course, do all those things, have your roster set up so that next year you can make a big swing, maybe trade your first round pick and land a quarterback, right? A veteran who's established somewhere. I don't know who that would be, but somebody. Or maybe it's your second round pick, or maybe you end up trading up in the draft the next year and getting a quarterback because it is a little bit less of a quarterback needy offseason, and you might have an opportunity to get the best guy available on the draft board. That's a possibility. So this upcoming season might just be a wash. Maybe there's just no chance that the Giants get their quarterback, and we do have to live through another bad quarterback playing season. It's totally possible, but they are setting up their roster in a way where next offseason they might be able to land that guy on a big splash move. So that's what I would say. That's kind of my counterpoint to all the things that you just said. But Sam Fountain, thank you for the donation. Really do appreciate it. When we lost McKinney, I was worried. But when we got Burns, I suddenly realized we were getting back to the philosophy of winning by getting to the QB and protecting the QB. You're absolutely right. It's one of the things that I was expecting the Giants to do was shore up the trenches. I thought they were going to make a splash on both sides of the ball in the trenches. They did. I wasn't expecting it to be a big splash like a Brian Burns type move, but it is an exciting move. The Giants are really putting an emphasis on pressuring the quarterback, which is definitely going to be a nice change of pace rather than having that blitz heavy scheme from Martindale. I think Bowen's just trying to have a 4-man rush full of dogs who can get after the quarterback themselves. And I'm really excited for that. I think it's going to be a really, really solid defensive front next year.
Yeah, this is part of what I was talking about when McKinney left how are they going to use this money efficiently to reinforce the team? And they took the $17 million and they essentially got Jermaine Illuminor and John Runyon out of it, right? So that's actually almost exactly what they did. 10 million plus the 7 million per season for Jermaine Illuminor. They turned McKinney into 2 offensive linemen. And I mean, if you want to look at it financially, that's kind of how it worked, right? So I kind of feel like we're going to get more value because this day and age, the league is a passing league. It's an offensive league. And I kind of feel as though right now this team has had a decade's worth of, excuse my language, piss poor offensive line play. That's how it's been for a decade, ever since we've been following this team. If you guys have been following us for the last 5 years, 4 years, we have never had a good offensive line. It's been miserable. By week 4, most of us are checked out. And it's ridiculous. We just want to have an offense that isn't absolute garbage every single week. And I kind of said, what I'm trying to say is you roll that McKinney money over into the offensive line. I think we're going to get pretty solid value out of that. And I'm really excited to see what the Giants can turn that pass protection into. But do we know, and this kind of leads me, and by the way, thank you, Rara, as well, for the very kind donation. Brandon, this is the question I wanted to get to. Can you guys explain why people want to give Daniel Jones another chance? The reason people want to give Daniel Jones another chance is because he never really had a shot, right? Ever since we drafted the guy, the offensive line has been garbage. Ever since we drafted the guy, we have never had a wide receiver 1. We drafted the guy and traded Odell Beckham Jr. instantly, right? We gave him Kenny Golladay coming off a back injury. We just did not do a good job giving him the weapons. And that's why a lot of people will say to us, or say, that's why we want to give Daniel Jones another chance. The problem with that is that it's too late, right? He's already developed too many habits. He has torn his ACL. He has multiple neck injuries. He's developed bad habits when it comes to his eyes, his processing. Everything about him has gone to crap, to be honest with you. He's been beaten and battered for 5 years, and the Giants are at fault for a lot of those problems. I don't think they scouted him properly. I don't think he probably should have been the selection in the first place, but we had him. He has the athletic profile. He's got a good arm. He just doesn't process well all the time. I think now it's just time to move on and reset. Ultimately, it's unfortunate, but it really is all that stuff. But for example, this is exactly what I'm talking about. All the clutch throws the kid made in 22. Sure, he made clutch throws in 2022, but the truth is he didn't do it in 2023. Now he has a torn ACL and multiple neck injuries. Do you want to run with that? And I'll throw another variable into the mix here. If he gets injured again, that entire 2025 salary is fully guaranteed. The Giants literally chain themselves in solitude, in solitary confinement if they go that route. If he gets injured and they have to give him even more money than they already owe him in dead money because he gets hurt and they have no other choice, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. That's a classic Giants move, right? Classic Giants move to do some crap like this. And look, 2022, a couple years ago, sure, we saw some upside from Daniel Jones. But that was 2 years ago. That was before an ACL tear. That was before another neck injury. Now you have to consider all these things. I think it's certainly fair. So we'll see what happens. But like you guys know, I really want another quarterback. I want either Drake May or whether it's Jaden Daniels, JJ McCarthy. I feel like might be a little bit of a reach. What are your thoughts on this right now? I kind of feel as though, and look, I know Steve, I'm a fool because I don't think he can play behind a real offensive line of weapons. You don't understand the salary cap space. I understand that. You don't understand the guarantees and how all this stuff is going to end up shooting ourselves in the foot. This contract is terrible. You can't pay Brian Burns. You want any more free agent signings? Kiss them goodbye, because you cannot afford to pay them if he is still on the team with a $50 million cap hit after signing Brian Burns to a $30 million per season deal.
Yeah, it was a 2-year deal. I think that's the important variable to note here. Had he been dominant this season, which he wasn't, they could have restructured the deal and made it a long-term deal. But the way that they signed it, it was a 2-year deal with a team option for the next 2 years. So that's really the reality of the situation for Daniel Jones. He had 2 years to prove himself that he could play here for 4 total years. After 1 year, I don't think that's going to be the case. So with Daniel Jones, my thing is, I think financially speaking, the Giants can't let him see the field this year, no matter what, because of what you just mentioned, Alex. If he does get injured in any way, has a season-ending injury, and that 2025 contract becomes fully guaranteed, can they even afford to pay some of the players that they plan on paying? I mean, can they afford to pay Brian Burns at that point? I don't know. When you look at the way that they're setting things up here, they have to get out of that contract. And if it becomes fully guaranteed, they're not going to be able to pay a lot of the players that they want. So whether you think that Daniel Jones is good, whether you think he can succeed or not, it doesn't even matter. The writing is on the wall with what this regime is trying to do. They're trying to make sure he does not see the field in 2024 because they don't want that contract to become fully guaranteed. That's the bottom line. So take my opinion out of it. Take Alex's opinion out of it. Look at the way that the Giants are moving. The writing is on the wall. They're not going to let him see the field in 2024 unless they absolutely have to. They're doing everything in their power. And in fact, I think it's a sleeper, but I think that if the Giants can get him to pass a physical before June 1st, don't discount the possibility of them cutting him prior to June 1st. It'll open up $40 million in salary cap space for them in 2025. That's a big deal. It opens up all that money, all that dead cap that would be on the books if they cut him post June 1st or next offseason. It's not there. They get to take all of that money off the books if they cut him prior to June 1st. I don't know if he can pass a physical before June 1st, and I don't know if they would do that because it would be a divisive move to the fan base. But financially speaking, you get rid of those injury guarantees and you open up $40 million in cap space in the 2025 offseason. So again, taking opinions out of it, not my opinions, but looking at the writing on the wall and how the Giants are moving, it is a move that you can't discount. It is an absolute possibility. I'll respond to this comment that Alex just popped up here. I was a J.J. McCarthy hater, though looking into his film, I like his ability to extend plays, steps up into the pocket, weaving, and when he runs, it's the throw. I agree with you. I was never really a J.J. McCarthy hater. I was just kind of in the middle on him. I felt like he was more of a second-round quarterback and felt like the upside was limited. I dove into it a little bit further. I watched him a little bit more. I actually agree with you now. I think that he is a worthy first-round quarterback. If the Giants did take him at 6, I wouldn't bat an eye. In fact, I'd be pretty excited about it. I think he's got great tools and great traits. He's very young. He's still growing. And considering all the things that he did when he was 20 and 21, think about what he can do if he's developed by the right coach into being 23 and 24. I think the upside is there. J.J. McCarthy is a good prospect. If you want to say he's mid or he's a second-round player or he's Daniel Jones or Mac Jones 2.0, someone literally just commented that while I was saying that he's DJ 2.0. You're wrong. That's just not the case. You have to take a closer look at the way that he throws, at the film. Go back and watch Daniel Jones when he played at Duke. They're not even comparable players, in my opinion. And this was me a while ago saying he's a second-round prospect. I thought that Daniel Jones was a second-round prospect. It's not the case. He's not Daniel Jones 2.0, guys. You guys have to take a much closer look. Go watch the Michigan State game. If you can get your hands on the All-22, watch that for sure. Can he make all the throws? Absolutely. His arm is one of the strongest in this class. He reads the fields exceptionally well. He's very athletic. I like J.J. McCarthy. This is my first time standing on the soapbox and kind of preaching for him. But listen, I think that he's a really talented kid. Would I be thrilled about him at number 6? No. I would be disappointed that we didn't get him. or that we didn't get a couple of these other quarterbacks over him. But I wouldn't be upset about it. I would be totally okay with it. If Brian Dable believes he can develop JJ McCarthy, then screw it, let him do it.
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of people are pretty split on this as well. I myself am not the biggest proponent of drafting JJ McCarthy at 6, and I am going to stick to my guns that I originally had a couple weeks ago. I don't think he's worthy of a 6th overall pick. And the reason I think that is because his sample size is very small. Yes, we've seen him make all the throws, but I also saw Malik Willis make all them throws. You know what I mean? So it's like, you look,
No.
It's different.
I did not see that.
It's different, but you're talking about a player who, yes, he's 21 years old, plenty of time to grow. I just did not see enough of him. And people will bring up like Michigan State, although they'll bring up like 1 or 2 games of a sample size and say, yeah, like he did it at this time. But like we've seen Daniel Jones do it every now and again. Like even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and again. I haven't seen JJ McCarthy lead an elite passing attack at the collegiate level ever. Right? Yeah, he's got a strong arm. So does Daniel Jones, though. Daniel Jones throws lasers, which I also hate about him. I like more of the Tyrod Taylor style of throw, to be quite honest with you. But I kind of feel as though JJ McCarthy, yeah, strong arm. He can throw on the run. He has the tools, right? But I just haven't seen enough of him at doing it consistently every single week. He only had, 1 game last year with over 300 passing yards. And he didn't even throw a touchdown in that game. Like, that's concerning to me. Like, I feel as though if you're going to put him into an element where he has to beat Patrick Mahomes, even in a regular season game, or beat Josh Allen, where he can march down the field against NFL level talent in the brightest of lights and operate a high octane passing attack. I don't know if he can do it. I really don't. And like, look, he might be able to. He might be able to walk out and put together a good developmental year and learn and get better over time. And that's what you're drafting, the tools to be able to do that eventually. But he has never done it at the college level in terms of operating a high octane passing attack. And that concerns me in terms of his lack of experience. Are you willing to wait 2 to 3 years to see the peak of JJ McCarthy? Is that something you're willing to do? Because I don't think we're going to see a good version of JJ McCarthy for at least 2 years. And next year he probably sits and doesn't play all that much. Or maybe he starts immediately at 21 years old and you just throw him into the fire and let him like, trial by fire it. How would you operate in terms of JJ McCarthy actually starting as a rookie?
JJ McCarthy's ready to start. He played in the Big Ten and he led a pro-style offense. Of all the top quarterbacks, him, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and Caleb Williams, of all those 4 guys, he's the only one that actually took snaps under center and ran a pro-style offense. He is more equipped to start year 1 than any of those other guys. He's played in an NFL offense. He just played it at the collegiate level, and he ran it perfectly to a T. Yes, he handed the ball off a lot. All right, first of all, I do have to address, we can continue this conversation as long as you promise me, Alex, that you never compare JJ McCarthy to Malik Willis again. I don't want to hear that ever again.
I wasn't comparing him. I was not comparing him. All I'm saying is that Malik Willis has a really strong arm. That was like his biggest thing. I just don't think like
guy played at Liberty.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm just saying arm. I'm just saying in terms of arm strength. That's it. Just because you have a strong arm doesn't mean you're going to be a good NFL quarterback, though. I get it. I get why. Like Tom Brady.
But that's not even the points. That's not even the points that I made on McCarthy, though. The points I made on McCarthy was he played in an NFL style offense. That's what will help him succeed at the next level. It's not about the arm strength. He just has the arm strength as well. And this was a perfect comment. Tony Giants fan, I literally have it pulled up right here. The Josh Allen sample size. Josh Allen had 1 game of 328 passing yards in his final season in college. All the rest of them were 200 yards or less.
But like this is what I'm saying, though. Like, if you have a sample size of 1 or 2, that doesn't mean that JJ McCarthy is going to succeed. You know what I mean? Like you can't say like this guy succeeded, so that means this guy's going to succeed. I just feel like, yeah, like JJ McCarthy has good tools, but the we just don't know if he's going to translate. And that's what I'm trying to say is, do you take a player that you're not sure is going to translate at 6th overall over a blue chip prospect that you really are confident, like Malik Neighbors, that will translate? You know what I mean?
I don't think that's the debate, though. I don't think the question is whether or not JJ McCarthy is going to translate. It's about how high is his ceiling. He's absolutely going to translate. He just ran an NFL offense to win a championship. That's what he did. Like, he didn't run a Wyoming offense, run around and play backyard football for 10 seconds and then throw the ball downfield like Josh Allen. Josh Allen, I only brought it up because you mentioned the stats of him having minimal 300-yard games. Josh Allen had 2 300-plus yard passing games in his career. So that's just one comparison. But I'm not even comparing their playing styles because, let's face it, Josh Allen's playing style was not translatable to the NFL. It worked because he had a great coach in Brian Dable. How about you look at this guy, JJ McCarthy, who just ran an NFL offense to win a championship? his game is translatable, 1000% translatable. Everything that he does, his mechanics in the pocket, his ability to hit the throws at all three levels, all of that stuff is translatable. It's about how high is his ceiling. Is he an average quarterback or is he an elite quarterback? That's the question mark about JJ McCarthy versus a Drake May who has the Josh Allen tools. Tools and traits on Drake May, you take the tools and traits, he's got that ceiling. JJ McCarthy, how high is his ceiling? It might be more limited than some of these other guys, but the ability and whether or not it's going to translate and whether or not he can run an NFL offense, he's more equipped to do that than any of these other guys because he actually has done it. Drake May is going to have a tough first season in this league, just like Josh Allen did, because they have similar playing styles. JJ McCarthy is going to find success as a rookie because he's already found success running an NFL offense. That's the argument. It's not about tools and traits. JJ McCarthy doesn't have the tools and traits that some of these other guys have. He has better tools and traits than what he's given credit for. But whether or not he's translatable shouldn't even be the question. It should be more of a question of how high do you think his ceiling is, and is his ceiling worth taking with the number 6 overall pick? It's basically asking yourself, if you want to play the ceiling game, are you okay with a Brock Purdy ceiling at number 6, or do you want a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes ceiling at number 6? If you want the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, or Lamar Jackson, the comparisons would be trading up into the top 3 and getting either a Drake May, a Caleb Williams, or Jaden Daniels. If you're okay with the Brock Purdy, then you're okay with JJ McCarthy. But JJ McCarthy, saying whether or not he's translatable, I definitely think his skill set is translatable. His ability to throw from a pocket and run an NFL offense is obviously there. So that's the argument that I make on that end. And I think that his tools and traits are pretty solid as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no doubt that he has some good traits, right? He's athletic, he's smart, he's a leader. A lot of people will say he's a good kid, like genuinely a good kid. My biggest concern is really this. He had the best offensive line in college football. He had the best defense in college football. He had the best running game in college football. He's going to a Giants team that is not going to have the best defense, not going to have the best offensive line, and is not going to have the best running game, and probably never will, right? Like, good teams, it is hard to build the best of everything. It's pretty much impossible. And you look at Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and what makes them so special is they don't even rely on fundamentals a lot of times. Like, they're just crazy with the ball. They jump off their feet and throw. They do it off their back foot. They're just ridiculous. They're like freaks of nature. You can't even compare anybody to them, in my opinion. But JJ McCarthy in the right offense, if you put him in the San Francisco 49ers offense last year, he probably would be decent because they have an elite offensive line, an elite running game, and 2 of the best receivers of football. The Giants have basically no receiving talent, aside from I love Wan'Dale Robinson, so I'm sorry, Wan'Dale, love you big time. But I love Wan'Dale Robinson. We don't have a tight end because Darren Waller's probably retiring, or, even if he leaves, he's already injury prone. We just lost Saquon Barkley, and we don't have any idea what our offensive line is going to look like. I am terrified that JJ McCarthy is not going to be able to, is going to quickly lose a lot of the fundamental or this offensive strategy or style that he's operated under in Michigan is going to be thrown out the window. I really just don't know how he's going to react to not having the best around him of everything, right? He's never been a loser. Like, he hasn't lost in high school. He hasn't lost in college. How is he going to deal with losing in New York? That's my concern, because the Giants are going to lose with him to start. He's going to struggle behind some of the worst in the league, or even average in the NFL, because he's going to get his ass whooped against some of these teams. In Philadelphia against their pass rush, with Bryce Huff, I mean, I can't even imagine. He's going to get whooped. And how is he going to respond to that? Because he's never had to deal with any adversity, which, by the way, Anthony, that's kind of where I eventually want to pivot to at some point in the future, about Spencer Rattler as a flyer in the late rounds if the Giants don't end up with a quarterback, because he has gone through that adversity and he does know how to handle the bad offensive line play. Maybe that's something the Giants do as a last resort. Not my preference, but I'm a little bit concerned about JJ McCarthy going up against great talent and not having everything perfect around him to operate at a high level.
Okay, but so a couple points to that. The argument behind taking a McCarthy that early is that you have him on such a cheap contract that you can build everything perfect around him for the several seasons that come next, right? You take him, you get that, reset that quarterback window. Now you can build that offensive line. You can build and get that running back and that wide receiver and those elite weapons. But you can't do that unless you reset that rookie quarterback window with a guy like a McCarthy. So you can build something similar to what the 49ers have, or similar to what Michigan have. If you take him, it's just not going to be ready year one. But year one, if you're asking, is he going to crumble, or is he not going to find any success, or is the team going to be terrible? Again, he ran a pro-style offense, so I think he's going to find more game-managing success in year one than some of these other guys might find. And that means you're probably getting a quarterback who's playing at a similar level to what Daniel Jones was giving you in 2023. So, yeah, it's not great, but he can still manage the game well with these lackluster weapons and with this lackluster offensive line. So, he can be a fine game manager. Maybe he does sit for a year. Maybe Drew Lock is a starter. I don't know. But if you're talking about his ability to play and his ability, and then you kind of made the point about adversity and everything that we've heard about JJ McCarthy, everything that we've read, he's like the best guy off the field, the best leader. Yeah, I know he hasn't faced necessarily that adversity, but even still, the kid was 20, 21, led his team to a championship, is loved by all of his coaches and all of his teammates. Like, I wouldn't really bring in any argument that might discredit his character or ability to handle adversity just yet. We got to see it. But if you're talking about how he's going to play in the NFL from year one, again, he knows how to run a pro-style offense. Does he have the ceiling to step in year one and have a CJ Stroud season? Maybe you don't feel that way, but can he be a game manager in year one? Yes, because he already knows how to be a game manager. It's just about getting him with the right quarterback coach, a right Brian Dable, to kind of develop him and unlock those other tools and traits and then maximize his ceiling, which again, maybe isn't as high as some of these other guys. But we spent enough time on JJ McCarthy. Let's talk about the New York Giants some more. Yes, we got a good comment here. So will Saquon be known for being a Giant or Eagle when we talk about him 10 years from now? And I hope the Giants demand the Eagles first for tampering with Saquon. First of all, I don't think that they're going to get anything from the tampering. I think that the Eagles are probably going to find a way to put that to bed rather quickly. It sounds like Saquon already did that in his presser, mentioning that it was just a misspoken kind of or misinterpreted word there. We'll see what happens with the NFL's investigation. Definitely not getting a first-round pick. I feel like that much is a promise. But will he be known as a Giant or an Eagle? I guess that's going to depend on how many playoff games he wins with the Eagles. If he never wins one, he'll be remembered for winning one with the Giants. If he wins multiple, wins a Super Bowl, that's where we'll remember him for. But, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, look, Saquon Barkley, it's kind of, he even said it in his conference today. He did not do a good job saying goodbye. If you watch Kirk Cousins, that's what you do when you're saying goodbye to a team. He went on live, recorded a video, thanked everybody. That was it. Saquon Barkley kind of reacted quite negatively to people saying this, saying that. I didn't necessarily appreciate that very much. And by the way, thank you, Playboy Phil, for the generous donation as always. I think that when we look back on Saquon, I don't think we're going to remember. I mean, I'll remember some really exciting plays, but we're not going to remember winning football games. That's for sure. We didn't do many of those. We didn't win many football games with Saquon here. And it's not his fault. It was a lot more than just him. So, right now I kind of feel like at the point we're at right now, I am so much more focused on the future. 10 years from now, I hope that we're looking at the next 2 to 3 years from now, like the future 2 to 3 years. That's where I want to be looking at 10 years from now, not what just happened to us. What just happened to us was like going to the gulag, like over and over and over again and losing the freaking gulag and going back to the main lobby, going back into the game. If you guys play COD, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's an awful process. Rinse, repeat, gulag. That's what it freaking feels like right now to be a Giants fan. I see light at the end of the tunnel. And the reason I do, Anthony, is because we have talked about positional value for a really, really long time. And Joe Shane clearly just turned the whole script on us. He really focused on positional value, got rid of the expensive running back, didn't invest at safety, invested in the trenches. How long have you been asking? The Giants were a freaking good football team and won those Super Bowls because of how good they were on the offensive and defensive line. I wouldn't even say the offensive line was all that together that great. In fact, I think they actually didn't have a great offensive line for one of those Super Bowls. But their defensive line specifically, OC, Justin Tuck, JPP, Strahan, how many guys did we have there that we were like, they helped us win championships, right? I think that we're investing in those positions right now. Kayvon, Dexter Lawrence, and of course you have now Brian Burns. So the defensive line seems situated. We got our left tackle. We have a couple really good offensive pieces. That's where you have to start at the end of the day, in my opinion. And I think that in 10 years from now, Saquon will be an afterthought. He won't even be in the league in the next 4 or 5 years, most likely. If in the next 6 years, we'll see how his health goes. But I think 10 years from now, I'm gonna be remembering the elite pass rush we had and how the Giants are trying right now not to waste the careers of Andrew Thomas, not waste the prime I really think that a lot of what we have going for us right now is a big shift in positional value. And Anthony, I'll ask you this. How does that make you feel? Because I know we're big proponents of positional value. I know you are, in terms of like spending the right amount at the running back, doing the right things in the right positions. I know you're not the biggest fan of the Brian Burns contract, but you get what I'm trying to say in terms of investing at the right positions. It seems like we definitely took a big strategical change, a big strategical leap over the past couple of days.
Yeah, listen, I like that they're investing in the trenches. That's where you win in the NFL. And that's a point that I've been making. I made it at the beginning of the stream. I made it on several episodes. That's the point. You got to invest in the trenches. You build inside out. They've obviously got Dexter Lawrence. Now they have Burns and Thibodeau, but they do need to start building outward, right? They do have, of course, a guy like Deonte Banks. That's great. But who's playing opposite him? Who's playing on the back end at safety? Okay, so you've got some good offensive linemen now. Maybe. I mean, we'll see. We got to see it on the field, right? Before we believe it. I will not say that the Giants have a good offensive line until I see them have a good offensive line. So that's that. But they've built into the offensive line. They've added some talent. Now let's move outward. So let's go ahead and get a quarterback, get a receiver, get a running back. Those things need to be done. So yes, I like the way that the Giants are moving in the next 10 years. Do I hope that I look back on this decade and say, hey, the Giants had a great pass rush and won a lot of games because of it? Yeah, I hope that that's the case. But listen, we think back on the 2 decades with Eli Manning, and we think of the highlights with all those great pass rushers, but we also think of the highlights of Eli Manning. It's really about the franchise quarterback. That's how you build a team. And, Eli had a lot of great weapons as well. You build inside and then you go outside. The Giants are at the inside point now. It's going to take them probably another 2 years to finish this rebuild. Hopefully they start building outside. I don't know if that means landing a quarterback, trading up for it, whatever. I don't know if it means finding a receiver to trade for and make a big splash that way, whatever. But they're building inside. Hopefully next year, or maybe just going forward, maybe it's even this year, they continue to build outside.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This is going to be an interesting thing in terms of seeing how the Giants continue to build. I think, as we've seen, they've kind of operated with the trades a little bit more. They've been trading a lot more than big free agent signings all the time. Some of the big assets we're getting now are via trade, which is kind of exciting. We're operating on a different mentality now. A second and a fifth for Brian Burns is not a bad deal, because we were talking about Chop Robinson. We were talking about some guys in the second round we probably could have gotten. Now we get a 25-year-old star pass rusher, and we signed him long term, which is fine. Like, those are the positions you want to have expensive contracts at: left tackle, interior star defensive lineman, and pass rusher. Those are the positions you actually want to invest in. And then you get the rookie quarterback. I mean, to be honest with you, I just don't see a world where we don't draft a quarterback. Look, even if it's JJ McCarthy, and I saw a comment before, Anthony, and I'll say this. The thing that really stood out to me from the comment was, would you rather have JJ McCarthy or watch Daniel Jones again? It's a damn good question. And I would rather have JJ McCarthy 100% than have to watch Daniel Jones again. And we take that money and we reinvest it in other positions. So yes, if it comes down to it, I'm 100% down to draft JJ McCarthy instead of running it back with the current quarterback situation we have, which, to be honest with you, we may not have a freaking choice. So that just might be the world we live in this upcoming season.
And let's circle that back around to the fact that if the Giants let Daniel Jones get on the field this year and he gets hurt, they can't afford to pay Brian Burns and all these other guys. So yeah, if it comes down to a JJ McCarthy or Daniel Jones, the Giants are going to elect to go with JJ McCarthy instead, because having Daniel Jones on the field is a massive $50+ million financial risk for them. So that's the bottom line. Again, taking opinions out, how good you think McCarthy is, how good you think Jones is, how good I feel those players are versus how Alex feels. Financially speaking, objectively speaking, putting Daniel Jones back on the field is a massive liability for this team. That's it, just because of that injury guarantee in the contract. So take everything out of it, resetting that rookie quarterback window and getting him on a cheaper contract and moving Daniel Jones out of here financially and risk cost evaluation. That is exactly the point that I'm making. The Giants do need to try and find a rookie quarterback this upcoming offseason. Giants Realist, thank you for this donation. If Dable likes McCarthy, take him. Let him sit for a year and build. If not, take Neighbors or Dunze. I've made that point many, many times. I agree with you. Whatever Brian Dable wants, I will never pretend that I am smarter than any of these guys in the NFL, that I'm smarter than Brian Dable or anything. If Brian Dable signs off on it and says, I want to draft and develop JJ McCarthy, so be it. I will root for JJ McCarthy, and I will believe. Not maybe you don't believe in JJ McCarthy. If you believe in Brian Dable and his ability to develop quarterbacks, there you go. Now you got to buy in on the JJ McCarthy pick if he makes it. So that's how I feel. And that's kind of like the bottom line for me. If Dable's down for it, then screw it. I am also down for it.
Yeah.
But I think we're coming to a close here. Alex needs to wrap this thing up. I need to wrap this thing up. We don't want to take up too much more of your guys' time, but we do thank you all for joining us on this live stream. We're going to do these more. We're planning on doing them at least once a week, maybe more than that if you guys are really rocking with it. We had a whole bunch of you in here, 400 plus right now. That's pretty sweet. I know there was a lot to talk about. We probably spent a little bit more time than we intended to talking about JJ McCarthy. I hope that never happens again. This guy is becoming so polarizing. He's like Daniel Jones 2.0 in that way. I'm sick of it already. We talked about him this one time on the channel, Alex. I'm already sick of talking about JJ McCarthy. So next live stream, we'll continue to keep it Giants-centric for sure. But we will talk about the draft because the draft obviously does affect the New York Giants, and it's going to be interesting how things go for the Giants in the draft. But overall, a really nice start to free agency. Alex, any closing thoughts on free agency, the Giants, anything?
Well, I just appreciate everyone in the channel right now saying thanks and no, please take up our time. Appreciate Chopped and Screwed. And rah, guys, Alex, great show. Appreciate it very much. And you guys love this concept. So we'll keep it going for you. And we just actually started up a new channel, Fireside Bets. We're going to be dropping some fun bets and stuff for the NBA and the MLB season. And if you guys are into sports betting, and I am, and I know a couple of us are, we're going to be doing some deep dives into those, dropping videos and content. So you can find Fireside Bets on YouTube and obviously Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We'll be posting all sorts of stuff there. We're also going to have a Discord. So I'm pretty excited to get some stuff going there and hopefully win some money. That'll be really, really fun. But of course, coming up on 20K subscribers. So if you guys aren't actually subscribed right now, please do so. We're really, really close. Appreciate all the support as always to all the Giants Nation. And it should be a fun year. I mean, look, there's a lot left to do for this Giants brass. We're going to find out what the draft holds. We're going to be here through all of it, getting you guys all the information. We're going to live stream it, of course. It's going to be fun, emotional. I'm sure we're going to be freaking out with all the rest of you. But that's what we love to do, is be a part of this community with you guys. So I appreciate it a lot and hope you guys have a great rest of your night.
Yep, I'll just repeat some of the things he said. Thank you guys for tuning into this live stream. Thank you for all the support that you've been showing. I mean, we've had a lot of viewership on the free agency episodes and a lot of love in the comment section. We do appreciate that. For the 20K subscriber special, we haven't exactly planned all the details out yet, but just stay tuned. We are really close to 20K. If you haven't subbed, sub. If you know somebody who might like the channel and they haven't heard of it just yet, send it over to them. Encourage them to sub. Once we hit that 20K, we will have something special for you guys, and we're really excited for that. But we're also just really excited to continue to do this for you guys every day right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. And go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, we'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.